Why it's so hard to share different perspectives and beliefs. How do thoughts and ideas that inspire us come about? Everything that's created comes out of silence. Your thoughts emerge from the nothingness of silence. Your words come out of this void. Your very existence emerges from emptiness. All creativity requires some stillness. By Wayne Dyer. There are days when I find myself wondering how certain thoughts come to mind, the kind that eventually inspires me to make a video. These ideas often seem to appear out of nowhere, catching me off guard, usually sparked by a moment of frustrations or stillness, leaving me deep in thought. It's in those moments that I find myself pausing, saying, as I try to make sense of it all. For instance, there are times when I'm so lost in my thoughts that I can't see the situation clearly. Reflecting on these moments, I realize my thoughts can become a tangled mess, almost inscrutably, like staring at a splatter of paint on a canvas and trying to decipher the hidden possibilities within. Now, let's talk about words. As I get older, I begin to understand the wisdom behind sayings like, there are certain things you shouldn't talk about. These often include sensitive topics like religion, sports, politics, and money. Depending on the people involved, even discussions about culture can be delicate. The reason is clear. People hold deep beliefs and opinions, and these conversations can easily become contentious. So, let's pause for a moment. What caught my interest were the words belief and opinion. What is the difference between beliefs and opinions? What I've noticed is that the word beliefs and opinions are often used interchangeably in casual conversation, but should they be? This got me thinking about the significant differences between them. Opinions are typically based on someone's thoughts, feelings, or ideas about something and don't necessarily require any evidence or justification. Beliefs, on the other hand, usually come from something deeper. A conviction rooted in faith, whether cultural, religious, personal morality, or values. If we delve deeper, we can say that beliefs often have some basis for justification, which sets them apart from opinions. Does this mean beliefs are closer to facts? Perhaps some beliefs, but not all. This brings us to the concept of justified belief, which shares more in common with knowledge because it is supported by reasoning or evidence. It's this justification that distinguishes a belief from just another opinion. So, from these thoughts, I realized that beliefs are more than just opinion, which is a significant distinction. This leads me to ponder the difference between beliefs and ideology. While both are convictions, ideologies are more broader, encompassing a system of beliefs or ideas that guide a person or group, influencing how they view the world or make decisions. So, let's ask ourselves again, what is the difference between beliefs and ideologies? As I began to think about beliefs, I realized that everyone has them. They are a fundamental part of our lives. Beliefs are so ingrained that you don't have to look too hard to find them. Some beliefs are simple, while others can be life-changing. Essentially, if you're human, you have beliefs, which is why the common phrase, everyone believes in something, exists. For example, some people might believe the reason I'm where I am is because I was dealt a bad hand, or no matter how hard I try, I won't lose weight. What is the relationship between beliefs and ideologies? But then I wondered, what exactly is an ideology? An ideology is more than just a collection of ideas. It's a system of ideas, primarily concerned with groups of people, whether it's about human progress, politics, or values. Ideologies often derive from our beliefs and are expressed through them. The notion of progress implies that ideologies are future-oriented, though they can also focus on the present, particularly in areas like politics, economics, and philosophy. What do all these aspects tell me? Ideology is more concerned with the collective than the individual, though it doesn't exclude them, as there is such a thing as personal ideology. But in general, ideology is about shaping goals, strategies, and attitudes. Ideologies, unlike beliefs, are much more rigid and rooted in our values, which are derived from our environment and experiences. Once an ideology takes hold, it becomes a guiding moral compass, which makes it understandable why it's so difficult to change. Beliefs, on the other hand, are more flexible and can be adjusted based on life circumstances or the pursuit of our visions. An ideology aligns closely with our ethical standards and matures over time. This evolution is evident when we look back at past ideologies and see how they differ from those held by people in different times and how they might change for individuals as they grew. While beliefs can be influenced by subjective experiences, ideologies are collections of beliefs and values shared by a group of individuals, often remaining consistent even as the environment changes, which is why I consider them rigid. As I sat down to continue thinking, I started to visualize a mental image that could serve as a good description for the relationship between beliefs and ideologies. I thought of water and its different forms because in many ways, these two concepts are similar. One emerges from the other and they influence each other, though not in the same way or to the same extent. If I were to describe an ideology, I'd say it's like ice. Rigid and fixed, but not unchangeable. Beliefs, on the other hand, are more like water. They are fluid, adaptable, and can take the shape of whatever container they're in. And in this analogy, we as humans are the cup that hold them both. Now back to where I left off. Ideology. Now remember, ideology can align closely with social, economic, or political philosophies, often aiming to change the world for the better, ideally. But what happens when a person becomes strongly biased towards their ideology and beliefs? This is when you encounter what is often called an ideologue. Our life always expresses the result of our dominant thoughts. By Soren Kierkegaard. I remember hearing the word ideologue in discussions, interviews, and lectures that were going on while I was thinking of something else, and I became curious about its meaning. The word contains ideal, but it refers to someone who holds very strong beliefs or opinions and is extremely devoted to a cause without being open to other points of view. Essentially, ideologues are idealists, but often impractical ones. In political terms, they can be blindly partisan, clinging strictly to a particular ideology. On the religious side, such people might be described as indoctrinated or cult-like. So, let's recap. People develop their own values and beliefs shaped by their environment. As they collect more values and beliefs through interactions and experience, they may adopt an ideology. Whether they openly acknowledge it or not, those who become deeply committed to their ideologies can become ideologues, fanatics, or even cultists, people who are so fervently attached to their beliefs that they disregard or dismiss other perspectives. In today's world, where strong opinions are widespread and social media often amplifies divisions, we see this dynamic play out vividly. Social media can demonize those with differing views, dehumanizing anyone who slightly agrees with the opposing side. Within this bubble, ideology, for example, politics, have become more of a moral authority than a means to shape the future of a country. This shift has led to a situation where moral superiority starts rearing its ugly head as some people begin to feel this way towards others based on their choices. As a result, politics have shifted from being about the future and the well-being of the country to being more about who is right and who is wrong, good versus evil, with particular emphasis on which side is deemed right. Ideology brings about a disastrous fusion, that of violence and righteousness, a savagery without stain, from Koba the Dread, laughter, and 20 million. This is despite the fact that historically, the two sides had different beliefs compared to today when you look at it broadly. However, it's important to point out that neither party ever had a single unified ideology. This remains true today. A political party is more like a banner that represents various factions, groups that are fundamentally alike yet different in their approach and views but share common grounds. Think of the conservative and progressive rings within a party. But again, I won't dig too deep into this as it's not the focus. Just some context as I ponder. But why does this matter? This inherent opposition to the other side is what makes politics so divisive. It fuels a sense of animosity, and people become entrenched in their views. There's an abundance of this on platforms like YouTube, Reddit, and other social platforms where divisiveness is amplified. This reality is compounded by the human need to belong to a group, which often manifests as a form of tribalism. When we think about it, politics is, at its core, about having an ideology and viewing certain issues and potential solutions through a particular lens. This is why there are so many different political perspectives. People take politics personally because, on an individual level, they feel the need to justify why their side is right. This justification becomes a reflection of themselves, as people tend to wear their beliefs on their sleeves, especially the devoted ones. So with this, we can understand why some people feel attacked. When a discussion occurs and criticism targets our beliefs, it feels like a direct attack on us as individuals. We become defensive because our identities are closely tied to our beliefs. This phenomenon occurs at almost all levels, regardless of education. In fact, I remember articles and studies like those from Pew Research around 2016 showing that college-educated individuals may align even more fervently with their partisan views. But to get back on track, this uncompromising perspective leads to the belief that not all opinions are of equal value or worth of being open-minded about. Whether that view is right or wrong is subjective. There have been times I've felt that way myself, and other times others have felt that way about my thoughts. But what matters to me is the question of how this affects us. It does cause limitations and creates echo chambers. When I think about it, this isn't uncommon, though it might sound like a generalization. I think it's a default for a lot of people. There's a strong tendency to filter out opposing arguments, devalue competing perspectives, and dismiss them in favor of their adopted ideology. This can be explained by the fact that people stick to their beliefs because they've already invested so much time and energy into them, even if it means ignoring valid opposing viewpoints, even if their own beliefs are failing them. Ideology is a specious way of relating to the world. It offers human beings the illusion of an identity, of dignity, and of morality, while making it easier for them to part with them. Václav Havel. Can you argue someone out of their beliefs or ideology? Here's a fun one to ponder. The third question that came to my mind was whether you could argue someone out of their beliefs or ideology from an idealistic and maybe even a narcissistic standpoint. You might think that because their ideas are wrong, you can change their mind, but this assumption often defeats the purpose of open dialogue, especially when emotions are high and beliefs are deeply rooted in personal values. Emotions and strong beliefs, particularly those based on life experiences, make it difficult for people to see the other side or where others are coming from. Beliefs are complex because they are shaped by a lifetime of experiences that interact with us as individuals in intricate ways. For example, two people might look at the same situation and come to completely different conclusions based on their backgrounds and experiences. In reality, it's rare that someone can be argued out of their beliefs or ideology, whether those beliefs are political, religious, or even about sports. This is because most people weren't argued into their beliefs in the first place. They often adopted them from their environment, such as their family or community. For instance, someone raised in a particular religious tradition is likely to adopt that religion's beliefs and practices unless something significant causes them to question or abandon it. For most people, beliefs are sewn into their identity through experiences rather than simply being told or taught. This is why it's that some people need to experience something firsthand to fully understand it. For example, learning a new technology might require hands-on experience rather than just being told how it works. Because of this, there often isn't a purely rational basis for beliefs, and arguing against them might not be effective. While we are free to change our beliefs, it usually takes more than just logic or argumentation. The best you can do is try to present your perspective in a way that resonates with their experiences and understanding, perhaps leading them to recognize that their beliefs might not fully account for all possibilities or outcomes. Now that sounds like a lot of work, doesn't it? Well, it is. The bottom line is that whether or not you can change someone's mind depends on the individual. Your argument might resonate with one person, leading to a shift in their perspective, or it might cause them to become even more entrenched in their beliefs. In some cases, you might feel like you've wasted your time trying to persuade someone, and who knows, you probably did. It's important to remember what we said earlier in this journey of thought. People's ideologies, such as their political beliefs, are often external reflections of their core values and worldview. Whatever a person values at their core will inevitably be reflected in their political views. Changing someone's core beliefs is a challenging task, if not almost impossible, and it usually requires understanding why they hold those beliefs in the first place. But you mentioned almost. Yes, by acknowledging the possibility, we admit there is a chance for change. However, fundamentally, altering someone's core values is not something that happens overnight. As I've grown older, I've realized that core beliefs generally don't change radically. Rather, it's a gradual process of learning and experience that leads to slow but lasting change. Occasionally, something dramatic might cause a sudden shift, but that's rare and may only happen once or twice in a person's life, if at all. There are also people who don't separate their identity from their beliefs and ideologies. These individuals tend to be more radical, clinging tightly to their views. When you find yourself in a situation where you fundamentally disagree with someone, you may come to realize that the disagreement is unreconcilable. At that point, it's okay to acknowledge that you simply don't agree. Do people hold on to beliefs, even in the face of facts? Ironically, even in the face of facts, people often won't change their minds. Not all people, but a significant number. This is particularly evident in situations where individuals refuse to budge, even when presented with clear evidence. Facts, when juxtaposed with deeply held feelings or beliefs, often hold little sway. As the saying goes, what are facts to feeling? And in arguments, you might hear, facts don't care about feelings, only to be met with a retort like, well, I don't care about your facts. All you can do is stand there stunned. This reminds me of a line from a movie. I don't care that you're right. You're still an asshole. It highlights the reality that bombarding people with facts doesn't necessarily change their minds. Instead, it can cause them to shut down, tune you out, or even double down on their position. I saw this in full display in college during an English class, where we were tasked to argue about the decisive race gap. You can guess how that went, given the many voices, debates, and interviews over the years on this topic, which revealed that there's even a divide in beliefs and ideologies related to the sexes. Shocking, right? Even if your facts are accurate, they may be irrelevant to the person you're trying to convince, especially when emotions and identity are involved. People often have preconceived answers and beliefs that they want to hear and stick by. To be fair, when I mention facts, I realize that this term is often used loosely. It might be better described as evidence. In our previous discussion, what we considered facts, such as research, articles, or statistics, often don't carry much weight with the average unless they come from a trusted source or authority, essentially talking heads. Even then, evidence can be twisted to fit various narratives, and this manipulation happens all the time. In an age where instant gratification and entertainment are the norms, few people want to dive deep into complex analysis. For many, it's simply easier to accept information at face value rather than scrutinize it. So when we hear something from a source we trust, we often take it at face value, even if we haven't verified it ourselves. This tendency is common. If it sounds right, and the source seems credible, and it aligns with what I think, it must be true, right? This is a widespread issue, and it's why fact-checking and reviewing information can be a career. Ideology is not the product of thought. It is the habit or the ritual of showing respect for certain formulas to which, for various reasons, have to do with emotional safety. We have very strong ties of whose meaning and consequence in actuality we have no clear understanding. By Lionel Trilling. So, in conclusion, I understand why certain topics are often kept out of conversation due to how our brain works and how we as people operate. This is why it's so challenging to see things from other perspectives, and why terms like ideal and optimist are often used in these situations. That's also why some ideologies seem doomed to fail. Personal desires and thoughts about how things should be, a desire for a utopia, clashes with the flaws and differences that can lead to a dystopia. This is how I've come to conclude that there's often not much you can do to change entrenched beliefs and ideology. How does the struggle to change others' beliefs reflect on our own beliefs? This also applies to the person trying to change others' beliefs. No one is immune from this. As humans, we don't always have all the answers to support our own beliefs. The struggle to convince others is part of the same challenge we face in understanding and justifying our own views. We might think that presenting facts or logical arguments will persuade others, but as discussed, beliefs are deeply intertwined with personal values and emotions. This complexity means that even when we're trying to change someone else's mind, we're also navigating our own uncertainties and limitations. In the end, this journey I went through in this video is nothing more than food for thought, and I'll finish with this. People think they are thinking when they are merely rearranging their prejudice, by William Fitzjames Oldham.